Hello, hi everyone. Welcome. I love getting in the comments and seeing where everybody's coming from, whether it's North Carolina, Washington, Massachusetts, Iowa, Pennsylvania. This is awesome. And I love seeing what all you guys teach. I see we have a lot of AP Psych folks in the group, so welcome. And that's because, I flipped my AP Psych, and that's what I've taught. So that's totally okay. You're amongst good company. So welcome. But just so you know, this live is not content specific. I would say it's not grade level specific, but I don't know that I have 3 boys, one's going to be first grader, one's going to be a kindergartner. I don't know if what I'm doing, what I'm showing you today, my first grader or kindergartner could do. I bet they could. You know what? I take that back. They totally could. And here's how I know. So I follow quite a few kindergarten and first grade and early elementary school teachers, and they send out all kinds of free goodies. One of my favorite ones, I don't have my iPad because my little one's playing his puzzle game on there right now. She made Google Slides that are kind of similar to what you've seen with Boom cards, where they drag text boxes and build their sight words. How cool is that? And so that's not all I'm going to show you today, but it is one of the things. So I stand corrected. I corrected myself, right? This very much could be any grade level. It very much could. You can adapt it and make it work at any grade level. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mandy Rice of teachonamission.com. And in my little tiny corner of the internet at Teach on a Mission, I help teachers build accessible and sustainable classrooms so they can stay there longer, right? It's all about helping teachers remain effective for their students for the long haul, but also present at work. Oh, sure. I don't need it, but that's okay. Thank you. Okay. Now that I have it, I can totally show you what I was talking about. It's going to take me a second though, but that's okay. All right. Let me get in the comments, just make sure I'm seeing everything. Awesome. Yeah, and as you guys have questions, feel free to plug those into the comments. I see you've got over 100 folks here, which is super cool. Welcome to all of you. But you might want to wait with questions if you want me answering them at the end. But please feel free to plug in any questions that you guys might want to chat about amongst yourselves. That would be super cool. Okay, so today we are talking all about best practices in a blended, call it hybrid, even if you have a virtual classroom, right? The things that we're talking about today can really work in any setting of school, right? Whatever that schedule may look like. But a lot of teachers are paying attention because it's freaking crazy. Sorry, pardon my language, right? We don't know what it's going to be. A lot of us don't know what it's going to be like as far as our schedule in August, a month, sometimes even less than a month from now. My children are going back not until after Labor Day. So we've got, teachers have a little bit of time around here, but still just because you have, a month and a half doesn't mean you have all the time in the world if you have to essentially build a virtual classroom. So what I teach, whether that's in my course, Flipped Classroom Formula, or in my upcoming live workshop, Blended Classroom Blueprint, any of the Facebook Lives that I do like this, anything on my blog, it's really about, of course it's about flipping because that's what I did. That's the experience I have and that I can speak to. But for me, it's about beyond that. It's about making sure that the work you're doing now that you started probably in April and are going to do until we start school, right? Making sure that is going to last beyond pandemic teaching, right? That it's going to be impactful for your classroom beyond this pandemic. And I'm, praying every day, sorry, my watch keeps going off, that it ends swiftly. But that's just not looking likely. Okay, I don't have those up here, and it would take me too much time to find it, so that's okay. I didn't really need that. Okay, so let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so you may have seen in my blog, it was now last week, teachonamission.com/blog. The post was all about best practices in a blended classroom and ways to make sure that the strategies you're using are sustainable and accessible for your students. One of those that I suggested in the kind of 3 tips that I gave was to choose one place. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, it means lots of things, and that's why I use vague titles. Just kidding. The biggest thing that it means is that I'm hoping that most, if not all, schools have chosen one platform, whether that's Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, whatever that platform might be. And if you would, get in the comments and let us know what that platform is at your school. And maybe you guys could find others who are also on that platform. And if you're new to it, you can kind of ask them their opinion and their ideas and ways they got creative and organized and all of that. But that's the biggest takeaway from that pointer is even if your school chose a platform, a learning management system, right, that you don't love. I personally love Google Sites and Google Classroom. Absolutely love it. Some folks use Microsoft Teams. People are getting in the comments now, Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, all those. There's so many out there. Even if your school chose one that you don't love, it would behoove you and your students to go with it anyway. And the reason why is because there's so many platforms that students were going to in the spring because schools hadn't chosen yet. They hadn't given those guidelines. And so having all of those different places to go was kind of counterproductive to the learning that needed to occur. So we have that hindsight now, so let's use it to our advantage. If you have a school that has not chosen a platform, so I'm looking at some comments here, go with Google because you can make it for free. You just make a personal Google account and you can make a Google site. You can make a Google Classroom, right? So go with it that way because especially like a Google site, sure, the URL is really long, but you can use Google URL shortener, you can use a bit.ly code, any of those, okay? But that's one of the takeaways. Okay, the other one though, and what this live is all about is notes in the blended classroom. I have like one big takeaway that I have for you, and then I want to show you. Okay, I want to show you a couple of things. But first, let me just say that I have spent a better part of today, right? It's 3 p.m. A better part of today in a Facebook group, and I'm blanking on what it's called right now. Digital interactive notebooks and binders is what it's called. Jessica, if you're here, shout out to you, girl, for sending me a message on Facebook and letting me know, hey, some people in this group were chatting about your flipped classroom stuff. I'm like, oh, yay, let me go check it out. And then I'm like, I need to read every post in this group because it's amazing. So I say that to say, if you are looking at an interactive notebook, a digital interactive notebook, not that you have to, that group is awesome. I've learned a ton from it just from today, and I may even have some time to show you a few things that I learned today from that group. Okay, so my biggest learning point, teaching point that I want you to take away from this, so if you're distracted, come back to me, is this. Even in a digital setting, whether blended, hybrid, whatever you want to call it, or even completely virtual, okay? If your students, which is most of the time like 4th grade and up, right? Maybe even higher than that. If your students are taking notes, right? Like you have a flipped video, let's say, or any video, maybe you didn't create it, and you want your students taking notes about it because it's your form of content delivery, of direct instruction, you want them physically writing their notes, even in a virtual setting. Now, that might make me a total pain in your you-know-what. That might be a total pain in your butt because you're like, well, how are kids going to print it out? Okay. So I've always suggested that teachers make some kind of guided notes, especially if they're doing a flipped classroom. It just really helps focus students' thinking. And I even did that for my like higher achieving students in 11th and 12th grade AP class. But if you don't have access, like if you can't give a printed copy of this stuff to your students, right? Or they don't have a printer at home, you can still kind of assign them, if you will, the notes, the guided notes, and they can just kind of use those as a reference point as they write down on loose leaf sheet of paper. You could also teach a really quick Cornell style note taking and they just draw the chart, right? It's really just a T-chart that's kind of skinny on one side. That's all Cornell is, right? You want to teach that style of note taking, and yes, you want them writing it down physically, not typing it digitally. Okay, research shows time and time again that physically writing out the language, not typing it, and kind of organizing their thinking that way is more beneficial than digital. Now, that is the only thing that really needs to be non-digital in your classroom, even in a traditional setting. So we do have that going for us, right? So a suggestion that I have, and I'll show you how to do this, is let's say that you are going to do an interactive notebook, or you're somehow in, whether it's Google Classroom, you're going to have one place for your students to show you they've been taking notes. Have them take a picture of it. They can do it with their Chromebook and the web camera they have. They can do it with their phone, and they can quickly upload it to an assignment in Google Classroom. They could quickly upload it into their digital interactive notebook if that's the route that you're going. Okay, so that's my biggest takeaway, is that they still write out their notes. Now, you want it to be a little more interactive, right? Especially if you're looking at an interactive notebook. You want it to be one place where your students are going to kind of get the content delivery and then do something with it. You don't want them clicking all over the place to do all the things. In Flipped Classroom Formula, I teach teachers to use like an ed puzzle or a play posit, which I still highly recommend. But I'm going to show you something here today that I think you might like. It's a new technique. It's a new product that I'm going to be making for AP Psychology because I kind of fell in love with the process. But let me go ahead and get to that here really quickly. Okay, I want to go to this. All right. Oh, that's right. We're down here. Okay. There's my fam. Let me pull this up here really quickly. Okay. So this is the picture that I took. I just took a screenshot of this exact thing right here, right? Let me scooch this over so that a little more centered, right? And was the picture for this Google Live that I scheduled, right? And I'm going to explain it and everything and kind of the cons of doing this way, but I also want to show you kind of what I'm doing, because my recommendation is to have one place as often as possible, right? One place as often as possible, whether that's like one LMS platform or even one set of slides, or one set of slides that is a digital interactive notebook. Okay, so let me show you or kind of explain what this is. Okay, so I flipped my classroom, and this here is the very first video that my students would be watching in my flipped classroom. So they can come here and they can actually, without even in presentation mode, they can play it right here. Now here's the thing. I have this little note here that says click play and then the full screen button, right? If this is way too small, because in most cases it totally is. Paolo, you asked, can I see this when it is all done and at a later time? Yeah, so all Facebook Lives, once it's finished, Facebook kind of lets you see the replay on, and you can see that right where you're watching here on my page. So the directions being over here in like a call out bubble, right? Watch the video, take notes on your paper handout that correspond to this, then read the each of the box, and I kind of give them a little interactive activity down here that I want to be really quick. And here's the other thing. This is a 21-minute video. It's one of my longer videos in my flipped classroom. I do not recommend that you go over 20 minutes. Here I am. Do what I say, not what I do, right? Every like awful coach and teacher has ever said that. So anywho, sorry. You'll probably want, especially as you go younger, right? You want those videos to be shorter. In early elementary, I say no more than 5 minutes. Upper elementary, middle school, no more than 10-ish. Even into high school, no more than 10-ish. And then you're really stretching their attention span if you get it up to 20. You really are. 15, I think, even is a stretch for some adults. Like me. It took me like 3 hours to watch a 20-minute video today. Because, I mean, I also have 3 children. But, you know. They're distractions all on themselves. Okay, so I just plug the video in here, right? And I want them writing on their notes, but then I also want them doing this little interactive like activity down here at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to show you kind of how I built that, as well as some other suggestions. Someone asked, I forget where it was on Facebook, but they asked, Okay, so when a student comes, let's say especially if they're on their iPad, I've seen my own children do this. They go to drag, right? They click on this and they end up clicking one of these side things. They're like, oh crap, I just wanted to drag that. But they ended up making it way big. I'm gonna show you kind of a workaround there. Okay, all right, so it's pretty simple. I went ahead and just made a new slide here. I'm gonna click Command or Control A to select everything and just delete it. The size of this slide is created in Page Setup, and I made it 8.5 by 11. I like paper, right? I like paper. I like the idea of like writing on a piece of paper. It's just my jam, right? Yes, I am providing printed notes, Katie. Yes, I am. But I also see the benefit in having the wide because it's more space to use. So please don't think that when you make a digital interactive notebook, it has to be the same size. If you're not printing it, why does it have to be this size? I like the simulation part of it, I guess, but also because this piece of paper is where I want students working. Whereas as you could see back up here, on the outs, you can still put stuff on the outside of the slide itself. Now, it won't show up when you click like present, but I'm not even having my students do that. I'm not having my students click present. I'm having them work in this mode here. So that's why I kind of chose 8.5 by 11. Again, that is in File, Page Setup in Google Slides, by the way. In PowerPoint, you click on Design, I think, and then like slide size, I forget. I know where it is, but I forget what it's called. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just insert my video, especially like guys, I just think this works really well for content delivery, right? So you're gonna paste the share code that would go there. Let me find one here really quickly. Pardon me as my YouTube channel comes up and you see all of the things that I watch. So funny. Okay, let's just go with a clinical psych video, and I'm gonna pull this one, Intro to Mental Disorders. Shh, be quiet. Okay, copy that code, right? I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna paste it right there. Search. Yep, that's the video I want. And bam, it plops right there on the page. I need to get rid of that. And then I want to make it bigger, so I'm gonna do that. I wish there was a way to like crop it, but I don't think that there is. Like if I want to get rid of the black part, but it still does it, and it just makes my face look all weird when I do it that way, and plus edits like the text. But here's the thing. If you're telling your students, I want you to watch it in full screen and be taking notes, just make that bad boy little, right? It gives you more space to then do other things on the slide. So please don't feel like you have to do the big half slide version of a video. And then you want to plug in pretty much anything you want to do. In this one, I made it a like matching activity, right? Where they would essentially draw. So they're going to insert an arrow and they're going to click to connect one box to another one. I don't even know if that's right. No, it is not. But that is how they would do that, right? And I tell them, you know, I did the first one. The first one is done for you, is what I say here. Let me see. So read each box. Create a line that matches each box with its. So maybe instead of create, I should say insert. Right? Insert a line that matches each box with it, and then maybe that kind of cues them to there, if that makes sense. Now, let's say you're doing a drag and drop. So here's another one that I've done where it's kind of like which one of these doesn't belong. So this is a video on ethics. I say click here and type your answer to this question after you've done the drag and drop here. But essentially the directions say to take this little, like I always call it the non-smoking sign, take this little, you know, red X through it sign and drag it where it goes. Okay. Now, oftentimes what happens, especially if students are on an iPad, they'll like grab the side of it and they're like, wait, I can't grab it. Or they'll select it and then they'll drag it like that. Like, oh man, that's super annoying. So here's what you do. You click insert, like you make the shape that you want, right? So this shape was just this one here. Bam. And you make it the colors that you want to make it. Then take a screenshot of it. So on my Mac, I'm going to do Command-Shift-4. That's my like kind of snippet tool. and I'm going to snip this bad boy just like this, right? So now it's here. It's going to show up on my desktop here in a second. Can I drag it? Oh, I can. And I'm just going to drag it like, oh, nope, it's not going to let me. I got to find it on my desktop. Give me a hot second here. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to drag it from my desktop onto the slide. And I'm going to get rid of this one. I can also then click crop to shape and make it a circle. So that way that the white just isn't taking up too much space. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now when they select it, sure, they could still like make it bigger, but especially if you're adding text in a box, now they can't like click in the text and it's gonna tell them to like edit the text, right? Now it's a little bit easier to just drag and drop it like so. Okay, and then I say click here and type your answer to this question. Why is this not a requirement for ethical research? Blah, blah, blah. So a little bit higher order thinking, I guess, is what we're looking for. That isn't just like a multiple choice. Okay, so just a couple of ways to kind of be more interactive when you go to administer some notes. But again, it's all in one place. You're not sending kids to YouTube. And I advocate that teachers make a Google site to put all of their YouTube videos in if that's what they use, or even their just MP4 files you can upload from Google Drive. But this, I kind of like this idea of, and if you want to call it an interactive notebook, sure, go for it. It would be really easy to just take one of these slides using Alice Keeler's Push Slides app, or is it an extension? I forget what it is. And you can push one of these slides into every single student's interactive notebooks after you've assigned them, right? Melissa, that's a good question. Do you grade all of these? That's a good question. Something that I teach inside of Flipped Classroom Formula, and that I'll actually be teaching in Blended Classroom Blueprint. That's a 2-hour live workshop. It's a PD session that I'll be offering next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow. I teach a quote binder system, and it doesn't even have to be a binder. It's just a way that in a blended or mostly flipped classroom is what I teach, but it's a way to see every single student's notes without it being completely unmanageable for you. Now, that is in an in-person class, right? So I have a different way that I kind of teach how to do that binder system kind of check every single day, not just at the end of a unit. An interactive notebook, though, if you think about it, in a traditional setting, you would be collecting them like on test day at the end of the unit, right? So, and you could do this the same exact way, like in a Google Classroom or Schoology, that kids have to turn it in on test day or before test day, and you just are kind of grading those as you go. Here's the thing, though. I would rather something like this be used in a setting where students check themselves with other students. What kind of webcam do I use? Well, right now I'm just on my Mac, but then the one that I have is Logitech is the brand, and I forget which one it is, but it's the one that has HD 1080p. Hope that makes sense. It was kind of the middle to upper end of the road. That's the webcam that I have. Oh, thank you, Jen, for including that. Yes, Melissa, it would be incredibly overwhelming to check 120 of these. Absolutely. And so you want to set your guidelines for students ahead of time. And here is what I tell my students is this. I am going to have eyes on your learning process. I say, I've been doing this a while, went to school for a while. I kind of know what I'm talking about. And it seems to me like your principal and a lot of other teachers that helped, interview me seem to trust that I would be pretty good at this. And I'd like to prove that to you this year. That's me being a little snarky. Maybe don't add the snarkiness on there. But I say, I have made a few decisions around how you will best learn in this course. And so I need you to go through that process, and I'm not going to pay you with grades to do that, right? You will get the grade once you have proven that you learn, right? But I'm going to help you learn so that you can prove that you've learned on something like a test. Now, I say what I was saying a second ago, I'm still going to have eyes on your learning process because, hey, that's kind of my specialty. It's not teaching, it's learning. So I will be looking through interactive notebooks, and I'm going to do, you could even tell them I'm going to do it randomly. I always did my, like I did my stamp system throughout the unit in a traditional classroom. I lost my train of thinking there. Hold on, let me get it back. But I told them, look, I'm not going to be able to see absolutely every single thing you do. I'm just not. It's not feasible when I have, like you said, Melissa, 120 students. And that's really not how I want to be spending my day, is making sure that you do what I tell you to do. If you'd like to do it, and if you'd like to trust me in the learning process and that I know what the heck I'm talking about, yes, it's going to be a great year. If you don't, it's not going to be that great of a year because your grades are going to struggle and you're going to wonder why. And I'm going to ask you if you're doing these things and actually thinking through them, right? So I know that that's not like a silver bullet surefire way to solve a ton of issues, but there are ways to do this manageably. I could show you the quick way that I'm going to kind of check, or that I would be checking notes. So this is a spreadsheet that I made. It's totally like not even a template. I'm going to make this really quickly so I can show some teachers how to do this. So I would make a spreadsheet for each of my preps, right? Let's say I teach American history and AP psychology. I'm going to make a spreadsheet for each of those. You could make it per unit. You could make it for the whole darn year if you want to. But what I keep in this unit, or in this spreadsheet, are things that I'm simply just checking. Things that I'm checking to make, and aren't necessarily things that I'm grading and putting in like a online grade book. That's a lot, right? For me, it's going to be a test or a complete binder check or a big project. That's what I'm putting in progress book. These checks are more in the learning process, right? Like your notes and your reading guides and your station activity and all of those things that kind of lead up to your students taking the test, right? Again, I'm not going to pay my students with grades as if there's some form of currency to do that work. You're doing it because you need to learn and you want to do well on the test. That is not a small hurdle to jump, though, especially in lower level classes, and I get that. So please don't think that I'm saying just say those few words and it's going to be golden unicorns and rainbows. Not at all. But here's kind of the way that I would be doing a binder check and checking students' notes as we went throughout the year. Okay, so I would make a spreadsheet and put, student's first name, last name. Just in case you don't know this, and I'm sure a lot of you do, you want to drag that little bar down, right? So that when you go to alphabetize by last name, it doesn't include last name in it. And then ahead of time, what I would be doing is going through and just typing in anything that I'm checking. So I label my notes and reading guides with what unit they are, unit 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. And then the letters for kind of which set of notes. So our first set of notes in unit 1 is 1A. Okay. And so what I can do once I have my roster here, notice it's for Bell 1 with the tab. I can go through and let's say that I haven't checked out any of these yet. I can just go through Google Classroom or through their interactive notebooks that I assigned on Google Classroom, and I can click, ooh, Sally did hers. And then you don't even have to drag your finger down first world problems. You don't even have to use the mouse pad. Just click down arrow space, down arrow space, down arrow space to see who's done it and who hasn't. And that's kind of the binder thing that I would be doing. And then here's Bell 2, right? And you can kind of change those colors. You can then select duplicate and you can rename it to be Bell 3, whatever those bells look like for you. So that's kind of the blended or digital binder check system that I would be using. And I think as long as you are clear with the expectation ahead of time, that guys, I'm going to be checking this. Will I know when you're not doing any yet? Of course. Your quiz and your test is going to tell you and tell me that, right? A few weeks back, I did a post on grading in the blended or online classroom. And that was very much the big takeaway of the post, was about how that's really going to be changing. I'm going to get back to this view here. It's going to be changing how we grade. Oh, you're right, Angelo Thomas. Oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't even show that. What the heck is my problem? Okay. Thank you guys for saying that. I like totally breezed past that part about making the check boxes. Oh my word, look at me go. Okay, so I haven't inserted check boxes here. So I'm gonna click and highlight all of the boxes where I want a checkbox. Okay, I've highlighted them all. I'm gonna click insert, checkbox. Isn't that awesome? Yes, Claudia, thank you. And then there you go. That's it. That's all you gotta do. And then super cool. And so you can then like select. So let's say that I'm gonna put like 4A, 4B, 4C here. I'm gonna select all of these and make it, you know, orangish, something like that, right? Making them smaller, of course. So yeah, that's how you insert checkboxes. Sorry guys, totally should have like meant to show you that and then totally breezed over it. That said, are you physically looking at their binder as you click they did or didn't complete it? Yes. Yes, I would be. And my thought process with that would be this. So I would like kind of minimize this and I would drag it over here. And then let's just say that this is Google Classroom. I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over here. And then I'm going to pull up every individual's binder. Or if you're going to assign those slides, you could make one slide per video and per kind of interactive activity if you'd like. You could do that. It would be easier to check it that way. It would be really easy to check it that way. It would be less of one place, but hey, if it's in Google Classroom, that's one place, right? And so I would just click here to go to the next student, and then I click here to say they did it. Click over in Google Classroom that I see that they've done it, and click over here. I could see, like, let's say if you have 4 classes of one prep, I could see that taking like 30 minutes. Probably not even that. Daniel, how do you give students feedback that you are checking these things if you're not putting it in the grade book? So Daniel, I wouldn't be putting, for instance, 1A in the grade book. I would be putting everything in the grade book at the end of the unit. That's the binder system that I teach in Flipped Classroom Formula and Blended Classroom Blueprint, is that I'm checking things throughout the unit, and I kind of set the bar that if you haven't done like 3 things, I'm calling you, actually I have my students call home, and then I kind of follow up with them. But then it's at the unit that I then will take all of these things here. Let me make this a little less confusing really quickly. It's at the end of the unit that I then say, okay, they did, you know, in each unit, whether it's notes, reading guides, station activities, all of those activities, it would be about 20 points, and they're each worth 1. And I total up how many they did to satisfaction on time, and that's their binder grade that I put in the online grade book. So that's a good question, Daniel. So essentially you are using the embedded tasks as informal formatives, yes, and making the spreadsheets to monitor student engagement evidence for kids at home. And yes, for kids at home, I think. Yes, Sarah. Yes, that's exactly it. Because, yeah, you said it perfectly. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, Melissa, right? I grade almost nothing. I'm right there with you. That's the way it's going to be sustainable for me. Provide lots of feedback, but that's because I flip my classroom and I can give in-person feedback. I don't have to write it down. I can have that conversation with them in class as I kind of see them work or not work, right? Good. Okay. Any final questions? I want to make sure that I have answered any and all of your questions. So please be sure and plug those in. We're about 4 minutes over because I only want it to be 30 minutes, but that's okay. Go ahead and ask. For Canvas, would they need to upload every section of notes? Beth, I have not used Canvas, but I feel like you could assign, so for like in that set of Google Slides, that would be one. I would be doing that for one unit at a time. So I would assign that at the beginning of the unit, and they would have the same assignment set of slides the entire unit that they could be working through. So I hope that makes sense. What is the name of the blended notebook app you use? Tina, I don't have an app, blended notebook app that you use. Where I was working just now was in Google Slides. I don't have an app that I use that's separate from that. It was all in Google Slides. Let's see. Any suggestions on providing feedback if we can't put it in the grade book? So Alyssa, so the personal conversations that I would be having in my class would be something that in a virtual classroom would be maybe in an email, or to me, it could be, I would be making a Screencastify video that's like no more than 3 minutes, kind of letting them know, hey, here's what I'm seeing, hoping everything's okay. Please let me know what I can do to support you. I see that you haven't done 3 of the last 4 things. That kind of feedback, I guess. Let's see. Did you answer late work question? Oh, late work question is interesting. That's going to be based off of your school and your district and what their policy is. Mine is that if you don't have the notes due when I say they're due, you don't get the point. It's 1 point. So there's that. And if I see them in class, they would be doing the video when they were in class. So Diane, I don't have a binder PD. I do have a blended classroom PD coming up. I will put that in the comments here, July 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Blended Classroom Blueprint is the name of that. You'll be getting a certificate of completion for 2 contact hours at the end, so you can earn some CEUs. And you can go to teachonamission.com/blended classroom. Blended classroom. Yeah. And yes, Jen, you can give feedback on the assignment itself. Yeah. Push a new slide. So, Christina, I don't have time to show how you can push that, but someone did link in the comments where Alice Keeler, who's like a tech goddess, is explaining how to use her app to push slides to students, and it's called Push Slides. Yeah, if you went to YouTube and just looked up Push Slides, you would find it. Is the blended PD a part of Flip Classroom Formula? Kelly, so everything that I'm talking about in Blended Classroom Blueprint is covered in some way in Flip Classroom Formula. So Flip Classroom Formula is like the cream of the crop, creme de la creme, like ultimate PD package that I offer. So Blended Classroom Blueprint is just a smaller, a little more bite-sized version, not version of FCF, but the things that I talk about in Blended Classroom are covered and times 10 in Flip Classroom Formula. So I hope that makes sense. You're welcome. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off of here because now I'm late to a meeting. I hope you have a fantastic afternoon. I would love to see you inside of Blended Classroom Blueprint. Again, that's a week from tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 2-hour at least because it's going to be live. So if we need to go longer, so be it. I'll have a babysitter. At least I hope I will. I need to find a babysitter. Is anybody else struggling with childcare? I'm struggling. Oh, I'm so glad you think so, Tracy. The kids could then, yes, they could move at their own pace. Yay. Okay. Bye, guys. Everybody have a great afternoon. I hope to see you on Tuesday. Bye.